On this special edition of Sanctuary, we'll bring you the sights and sounds from the Jubilee celebration for Cardinal Blase Cupich as he celebrated 50 years of priesthood.
I'm so incredibly grateful personally to be here. It is truly an honor to be your MC for this historic occasion commemorating a remarkable 50-year ministry of Cardinal Blase Cupich. Cardinal Cupich has been a prominent voice in bringing local concerns to the attention of the Holy Father and to bring those concerns of the Universal Church right back here to Chicago. Please now, as you enjoy your meal, enjoy the video that we're going to play.
I grew up in a family of 9 children. My parents married right after the Second World War ended. My dad came home from the Navy. They were married in February of 1946. Over the next 16 years, 9 children were born in that family. I'm the third of 9. I have 2 older brothers, and then we began to have the sisters come along. I lived in a neighborhood that, for the most part, was tied to the life of the parish, where many people of Croatian descent settled as my grandparents immigrated from Croatia around the time of the First World War.
My dad had to, he was a mail carrier for the most part, for his primary job, but then he would have to work several part-time jobs to make ends meet. It was tough growing up. Money was kind of scarce, but we got by.
My faith was formed really in the home because we had various traditional practices around the holy seasons. I always thought about becoming a priest, or at least studying for it, as one of the options in life.
When he said he was going to become a priest, Mom thought that was cute, you know. She kind of smiled when she said that. I would have picked Bob. Bob was straight up and down. You know, what the parents told him, he always did. He always obeyed. I'm not saying Blase didn't, but.
In high school, I was the president of the student council, and I really liked that, and I was thinking even of going off to college and eventually going to law school. But then a priest suggested that I go into the seminary. I thought I should try it, and in time it kind of grew on me. There was no bolt out of the blue, a voice from on high telling me that that's what I'm supposed to do, but it became very familiar to me as something that I could be comfortable with. On August 16th, 1975, in Omaha, I was ordained in my home parish of St. Peter and Paul. The first Mass that I celebrated was on the next day, Sunday. There were a lot of guests in town.
I felt good for my parents, and I felt good for my grandmother, Mahan. I remember that was over the top for her. They just felt so very special that her grandson and my parents' son would become a priest here in the Archdiocese of Omaha.
I remember so well a talk you gave where you told us what your grandmother advised you when you were newly ordained. And her advice was, listen well. Your Eminence, thank you for listening to your grandmother and to the people of God.
My first assignment was as an associate pastor in St. Margaret Mary's in Omaha. I was told later on that that was not my first assignment, but The pastor of the parish where I was to be assigned told the Archbishop he didn't want me because he thought that since I studied in Rome, I wouldn't know the problems and difficulties of the pastoral needs of people. The pastor of St. Margaret Mary's, Peter Dunn, was in to see the Archbishop because he didn't get an associate. And so the Archbishop said, well, I have this guy who's left over. That's why I was wondering why I was referred to as a leftover guy for some years, but it was a wonderful assignment. In the middle of 1980, the Archbishop called me in and told me that the Papal Nuncio, Archbishop Shadow, had asked me to come for an interview to join the staff at the Papal Nunciature, now the Vatican Embassy. So apparently I passed the interview, and I was there from that period of time, late 1980 until 87. In 1989, I was asked 2 years later to be the rector of the Josephinum Seminary in Columbus, Ohio. I came back from that in 1997. 1 year later, was appointed Bishop of Rapid City, South Dakota, where I remained until 2010. I was there 12 years. I loved being in Rapid City. It's a much simpler life, but the people are very direct, very supportive. I loved particularly my interaction with the Native American community. There were only 28,000 Catholics, 1/3 of them being Native Americans. After that, Pope Benedict asked me to go to Spokane, Washington.
I do accept the pastoral care of the people of God in the Diocese of Spokane. I resolve to serve faithfully the spiritual needs of this local church.
I was there for 4 years until 2014, and then I was appointed the Archbishop of Chicago. So my mother thought I could not keep a job.
By virtue of the fullness of our apostolic authority, we release you from the bond of the Church of Spokane, and we choose and appoint you Metropolitan Archbishop of Chicago.
When I get a call, and now I've had 3 calls, in fact, 3 different popes have assigned me as a bishop. I've always had the understanding that on the day of my ordination, I gave my life over to the church, and I should do whatever I'm asked to do if I possibly can.
I'm certain that the appointment was somewhat of a surprise to you.
I said, you know, I've never asked for anything. I've never said no to the church, and so yes, I'll do it.
And how long did it take for it to sink in what you had ahead of you?
It's still sinking.
I was thinking back, when did I first meet Cardinal Cupich? Well, I was at the North American College as a graduate student priest, and I would go up to the North American handball courts. It was in that area that I met the young Blase Cupich. And as I think back, I guess I was hoping to be a model of athleticism for him. And I hope I was. Look at the results. We share the same language and vocabulary, the same outlook. Occasionally we cook together, which is a fun thing to do too.
As I've watched Cardinal Cupich in action, he's a priest, a bishop, a cardinal who is truly himself. He is smart, he loves the church, he loves Jesus, and he gives it his all.
His heart is here in the Archdiocese of Chicago. There's no question about that. But he's also assumed responsibility on a national level, but also internationally as well. This is just a remarkable way in which one man has tried to serve on so many levels, in so many ways, and it's a wonderful thing.
That is what deep faith means. It's a faith that in fact opens us to the power of God in our life and the emptiness that we feel, but also allowing ourselves to be empty for others and available to others. That's precise. I come at the issue of immigration on a very personal level, knowing that my grandparents were immigrants and they were welcomed into this country. I'm here because they took the bold step of leaving their homeland and starting a new life. That's how I look upon the immigrants of today. I'm with them on that in a very personal way.
Raise your hands high. He's been open to the ministry of immigration. He's supported us in many ways. He's often one of very few bishops, cardinals who will have the courage to speak out for the immigrant against the injustice.
When I first came here, there was a lot of gun violence, and there still does remain that today in Chicago.
Hear the anguish cry of those who are victims.
It was a Good Friday when Cardinal Cupich called the whole church, the entire archdiocese, to Inglewood to commemorate the crucifixion of Jesus Christ by marching for peace in spaces where guns come to disrupt community. We, the people of goodwill and strong faith, are ever grateful for this kind of leadership. We wish His Eminence many more good years of offering the faithful the peace of Christ.
In the unity of the Holy Spirit, all glory and honor is yours.
Cardinal Cupich has always been so forward-thinking with ideas about the use of media. When the COVID pandemic hit, he was quick to embrace bringing the Mass to television and online. His message now not only reaches people within the Archdiocese, but across the country and around the world.
It's not just that prayer and fasting are core pillars in the practice of our respective lives of faith. It is that these practices serve as a powerful and hopeful bridge between those of us who all believe in God.
I enjoy my interaction with people of different faiths. I learn from them. I think that kind of exchange is mutually enriching, and I continue to invest in those interactions.
He's been a shepherd whose friendship, whose caring, and stewardship have extended across a wide diversity of faiths and communities. Speaking on behalf of the Muslim community in Chicago and as a leader in the Islamic community, he's just been outstanding in helping devise a common platform and a voice to address matters of concern.
I think of Cardinal Cupich as such an anchor in helping us to focus on the partnerships, the friendships that are real and meaningful and that can help us kind of walk together on steady ground, even when it doesn't always feel like steady ground. He's an exemplar of what it means to lead.
I have found that there are common points of agreement that we have about how a person should live their life, but also the tolerance that we need to have that goes beyond just putting up with each other, but a tolerance that benefits from an exchange where we learn from each other. Father Kameli said that the first 50 years are the toughest. So it's all downhill after this.
How do priests make it to 50 years? I think it happens when focus is maintained. Focus not on oneself, but on Jesus and on the people.
What is our hope for Blase in the future? Just to continue doing what he's doing, and he does it well. As one of the leaders of the church, as a cardinal, those are his children too, his family. Don't forget that, and he won't.
I have seen firsthand in Cardinal Cupich that kind of service without a claim. He just keeps going.
I'm going to go back to something an older priest told me when I was first ordained. He said, keep two things in mind. Do the best you can and be good to the people. And if I've done that, then I'll be satisfied that I responded well to the Lord's call.
Ladies and gentlemen, Cardinal Blase Cupich.
Relax. Well, what a nice evening, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I'm really so pleased that people who I've gotten to know over the years in different points of ministry, from Omaha, Rapid City, Columbus, Ohio, Washington, D.C., Spokane, and now here in Chicago. And as I do so, I really have to say it warms my heart that you took the time to be here this evening. So welcome to you all, and to my brother bishops and brother cardinals as well. I want to thank all of our staff for the work that they did here this evening. That wonderful video they put together. The only thing is, I was hoping there'd be a commercial break. But it really does show the wonderful talent. You know, many of these people who organized tonight also organized the event at Sox Stadium June 14th, when we had tens of thousands of people. And as you know, the Holy Father is a Sox fan. Well, thank you, Southsiders. I really enjoyed that occasion because it was the first time that I gave the Sermon on the Mound. You know, the Holy Father does have great affection for Chicago and his White Sox. But there was a question that came up in Rome last week when I was there about whether or not his allegiance to teams in Chicago stops there, because he was visiting with some American students, and he came upon this one student who said he was from Green Bay. So the Holy Father went on, but then he came back to the guy and he said, "Go Packers." So I was asked about that. And I said, listen, the Holy Father is from Chicago. He learned very young in life that you keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Some years ago, a father was telling me about going to a funeral with his 2 teenage children, and it was a close friend of the family. And at the funeral, the son of the deceased got up and began to talk about how his father's words were so memorable and affected his life. And it was very touching and really moving for everyone. So as they're going back after the funeral to the car, the father of the 2 teenagers asked them, "Well, when I die, what words would you remember me saying?" And immediately they said in unison, "Where's my change?" Well, all of us, no doubt, have words that have shaped our lives. And it's true, I have learned a great deal from the people I've served, from my brothers and sisters, but especially tonight from my parents. And I just want to share with you 2 words that have had an impact on me that I think my brothers and sisters will recognize. The first one is go with the flow. You remember that? It is a phrase that talks about having the ability within changing times to adjust. My parents were in that great generation that Tom Brokaw wrote about, in which they made it through the Great Depression, the Second World War, and came back and made the adjustment of raising a family. It was something that they were able to do simply because there was a center in their life. My folks met on January 26th, 1942. I know that because my dad was home on leave after he had enlisted in the Navy after Pearl Harbor. And that summer, he knew he would go back in the war zone. And so his sisters decided that they were going to have him go to St. Anne's devotions on that day of July 26th. And really what they wanted is they wanted to fix him up with my mother because they knew that she would be there. And as my mother said, the girls that were there would say under their breath as they recited the devotional prayers, Anne, find me a man. So, with my dad's plotting sisters and St. Anne, he didn't have a chance. And I know something about plotting sisters, but I'll stop there because I also have experience about their deep resources of retaliation. So Dad came home at the end of the war in the fall of 1945. And they were set to be married in February of that year. But just weeks before the marriage, my dad's father died of a heart attack at 58 years old. And so there had to be this time of grieving and mourning, and they were thinking of postponing the wedding. But the pastor, Father John, told them that if they did, they'd have to wait until Easter because you don't get married during Lent in those years. So he encouraged them to go ahead with the wedding, which they did. And then in December, my brother Bob was born. 11 months later, my brother Rich. 16 months later, I was born, and so on. Well, folks, the reason I bring that up is because if it were not for the good pastor, Father John, we wouldn't be here tonight. So let's say a prayer for Father John. But I think it was an indication that they were ready to go with the flow, no matter what happened. And sometimes the flow and the tide goes against us. What's important is that you have the ability to adjust, to be able to have the courage, the inner courage, to take up the challenges that are before you, even though you know maybe you're going to get blowback or people are going to complain or they're going to really question you. But if you think it right, you should go ahead and go with the flow. That's something my parents taught me and what I have brought to my ministry. The second word is in Croatian, something my father said, ne boj se, meaning don't be afraid. My dad was a person who lived not be afraid. Because at age 48, he contracted Parkinson's. He had to quit his letter-carrying job, but he went on. He wasn't afraid. In fact, after getting his medication right and an exercise routine, he decided he was going to do some volunteer work with St. Vincent de Paul. And so he would visit people in hospitals and nursing homes and in their own homes. And he noticed that some people were lacking in good nutrition. So he went to the county board. And he told them that they should really do something about it through the Meals on Wheels program. Well, they rejected him. They said, forget about it. It's too much bureaucracy. So he did what any self-respecting Croatian would do. He got mad. And he ran against the guy in his district and beat him by a handful of votes. He served 3 terms, became the chair of the county board, and to this day they have Meals on Wheels. Don't be afraid. Ne boj se is what he said. It seems to me sometimes we grow in fear in this country, and we should take to heart the words of my dad, not to be afraid. Franklin Roosevelt told the people during the Depression, the only thing you have to fear is fear itself. Well, I think maybe we should change that a bit and say the only thing we have to fear is except fearing one another. That is something that we're doing too much today. being afraid of one another. And it seems to me we should put that aside. Let's have the openness to embrace the diversity that is a part of this nation, that welcomes the immigrant. So I share these words with you as I look across this audience and see a lot of parents and grandparents. And I would urge you to speak words that your children and grandchildren will remember, so that maybe when they're at a podium like here tonight, they'll tell a wide audience how you impacted their lives. Maybe even begin by telling them why you came here tonight, why you came here to celebrate priesthood, because that's what this is about tonight. And maybe share not just your faith and what we believe, but tell them why your faith has made a difference in your life, shaped your life, and made you the person that you are today. That's worth telling. Those are words worth having with your children and grandchildren. It's late, and I promised all sorts of people we would end on time, especially my friends from South Dakota. But Joe, you're on mountain time. It's only 8 o'clock. I also didn't want to provoke the staff, who told me that if I went on too long, they would be like the Oscars and start playing music. But I do want to say again how much I appreciate all that you have done to be here this evening. And as I bid you good night, I encourage you once again to speak meaningful words to your children and grandchildren, words that they'll remember. But again, never hesitate and never apologize for telling them, "Where's my change?" Thank you.
You can find more Catholic content and news right on our video stream. Just head over to our YouTube channel, CatholicChicago. Also available in podcast form, wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for joining us for this special edition of Sanctuary. We'll see you next time.